Hello and welcome to Breaking Mayberry, back for season 4, the show that cares for our fine feathered friends, an avian-based show.
We're going on
record. A show about loving birds.
We're going on record. This is a pro-bird podcast. Just coming out of the gate and making that abundantly clear.
I mean, I feel like we've discussed my love of all things avian on this show.
Your bird lust.
My bird lust, but today it's actually relevant to the episodes.
Oh yeah, this is your time to fucking shine.
We're back for more of the Andy Griffith Show and also other classic baby boomer television. Did you miss us? We took a little bit longer of a break than we expected, but a lot of weird shit happened while we were gone.
Yeah, things kind of got out of control.
We kept going like, would now be a good time to return? No. How about now? And then we kind of realized there's absolutely no good time to do the thing that we do. So,
I mean, have you listened to podcasts with people that just like plowed through the last couple of months? Because they are all in really rough shape. I listened to a podcast for a while that was just like couple of friends hanging out, swapping jokes. And I just like checked in on them for the first time. And it's like basically a support group now.
The McElroys don't know what to do with themselves.
Yes.
The McElroys, like, if you tune into them, they're like, can we do bits? Should we be funny? And Justin's like, I'm gonna do a weird voice. And the other two are like, please stop. Yeah. This is not the time.
There needs to be a GoFundMe to just give the McElroy brothers a vacation. Like, they just need a break, and I'm so...
They brought this on themselves.
Yeah.
They willingly chose this life.
That's
right?
true.
They could stop podcasting at any second, and we'd all understand.
Yeah.
It's a madness. It's like Wile E. Coyote chasing the Roadrunner. There will never be enough airtime for the McElroys.
God help the listener that doesn't know what My Brother and Me is. Although you should just, if you like us, go listen to the My Brother and Me and realize how much we're desperately trying to rip off their shit.
I'm sure that it's really fun to listen to two podcasters talk about another podcast that you're not listening to. But they are kind of like pretty much the only ones making money off of it. I really think that there should just be like a limit. We're done. Like just a moratorium on podcasts from now on. Breaking Mayberry is good. We got in. We're grandfathered in. We got in under the wire. We're at season 4. That's enough to establish us, right?
Yeah.
But no new ones. No more.
No. I think
Scarlet Witch that shit. No more podcasts. And
just right now. We're done. You're done. If you got one in last week, congratulations. You got it in under the wire. Be very proud.
Before we launch into today's episode of the Andy Griffith Show, which I should say, the episode we're doing today is good.
Yeah.
And it's one that it's probably the most famous episode, and it's the one that's the most highly regarded, not just by like crazed Andy Griffith fans. This shows up for television critics like TV Guide on the list of 100 greatest television episodes of all time.
And
I don't know if I would put it that high, but it's certainly the best Andy Griffith episode.
Well, it's like the thing about it is that it is archetypal. It is like the creation of a fundamental story on TV, which we'll talk about, but it's like some hero with 1,000 faces, Joseph Campbell shit, where it's like, it is like a sort of a fundamental type of short story where kid kills bird, kid becomes parent.
Yeah, I mean, 1,000 other episodes came from this episode.
Yeah, and I think that's like the cool thing that we've only had happen a couple of times, and it was kind of us reaching. Like,
yeah. This one's very clear, and we'll talk about 2 examples of it influencing other shows. But first, I want to talk about how I almost became a movie producer.
Yes. Your favorite part of the show, when we just talk about weird shit that happened to us in the last 2 weeks.
I've been getting a lot of... I have to be on LinkedIn a lot for work. And I've been getting a lot of garbage LinkedIn messages, more so than normal. And I got one today, or I got one the other day, from a woman. I won't say her name because she has, like, this is an actual person who runs an actual business, but not well. And they sent me a form letter, and I know it because it says, "Dear, comma." So forgot my name. "We're completing the raise for the new Pierce Brosnan film, November Man 2. We have a clear chain of title." I don't know what that is. "A letter of intent from Pierce." like
yes!
She and Pierce are on first name basis. "And we only need $1.5 million to finish the funding of a $7.5 million budget. Do you or somebody you know might be interested in more details?" Let me try that again. "Do you or somebody you know might be interested in more details? Okay. If so, what's the best email to reach out to you?" And then a website, and let's chat about 2021 business possibilities. And I wrote back, person's name, "Love, love, love this idea. Big fan of Pierce. Love November Man. Always wondered why it didn't get a sequel." Side note to the listeners, I've never seen November Man. I don't know what that movie is.
I'm looking up November Man right now, and I have thoughts.
He's like a hitman or something. And I wrote, "As it happens, I am currently looking for investment opportunities, but I'm thinking long-term, multiple pictures. I might be interested in hearing details, but I'd be more inclined if you would kindly pass along to Pierce that I have some ideas, including a spec script for a sequel to Dante's Peak. I think he'll love it." And I sent that message, and then I stared at it for a minute or two, and I thought about it, and like, if I was still like in business for myself, I would see this through, for the humor. I would do another Mark Trail situation, but I just got a new job. I just started a new job, and the last thing I need is to explain to my boss why some woman is calling his business, explaining why his new employee led her on about November Man 2, the December Man, I assume.
Yeah, if you went viral again for your prolonged Pierce Brosnan Twitter antics, I feel like your boss would come in and be like, "Listen, we're not mad. I mean, we might be. We really can't get a handle on this, but you're blowing up for a whole thing with Pierce Brosnan. A verified person retweeted you. It's a whole thing. We really don't. We're in uncharted waters here. I feel like I should fire you, but I really don't know."
If past antics are any indication, this would have definitely ended with Pierce Brosnan shooting a man that looks like me in November Man 2.
Yes.
It would have absolutely ended in a fake character loosely based on me just dying horribly in the first 5 minutes.
It would have been it would have generated interest in November Man 2, which they would have made semi-ironically. You would have gotten a 3-second cameo. It would have bombed, ruined what remains of Pierce Brosnan's career, and he would be destitute now, and you would be responsible.
No, Pierce Brosnan chose this life.
Yes. Also, when they said that they have a letter of intent from Pierce Brosnan, I don't actually think that part is a lie. I don't think it's that hard to get a letter from Pierce Brosnan that he will make a movie.
Yeah, no, of course not.
I feel like I could mail a letter right now, be like, "Pierce, I have a great idea. It's like Into the Spider-Verse, but with James Bond. You and Sean Connery would team up," and he would be like, "Yeah, I'm down. That sounds like a good idea." He wouldn't even think about it.
It wouldn't even occur to him that Sean Connery is dead.
Exactly. He would just be like, "Movie, you in it." He'd be like, "Sure, if you can make it happen, give me a call." But, okay, so many things about it. So, all right, you're gonna pick a Pierce Brosnan movie to remake. You're not going to do one of the movies that he made that were, applauded? You're going to do November Man, the 2014, from the look of it, very generic action movie.
Well, they were only raising a $7.5 million budget, my man. I think it's because you can make it cheap. You're not doing Mama 3 here,
For the love of God, at least aim a little bit higher. You kind of hit the nail on the head. If you were going to try to convince me to do a Pierce Brosnan sequel, yeah, you would do Dante's Peak. Although this is apparently directed by the exact same guy. That's awesome.
There's a lot you could do, right? Mars re-attacks.
Yes!
The Matador 2, more Matadoring.
The Matador 2, Seeing Red.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah. Like, I was trying to come up with a funny example of a different Pierce Brosnan movie, but I can't remember any other Pierce Brosnan movies. I was trying to remember the name of the Matador. I was like, that one where he has a mustache. What else?
After the Sunset 2, Night? Nighttime?
Is it? Pierce Brosnan really is just the funniest actor. Because
Pierce Brosnan is great because he looks like a guy you should take seriously, but you can't at all.
Yeah, like
Pierce Brosnan has made a great career out of looking like he should be a good actor.
Yes, exactly. Like if you showed me Pierce Brosnan, I would be like, well, he's probably like an incredible movie star who's been in a lot of great films. He just looks like that. And then you show me like his thing, I'd be like, oh well, okay, cool. He's James Bond. He must be like a prolific James Bond. He's like, no, he was in the one that went the most off the rails. He was in the one where he snowboarded on a nuclear explosion. Like, he's the guy that they gave an invisible car and had him fuck Halle Berry with diamonds.
Oh my god. They cast Denise Richards as a scientist named what, like Dr. Juniper Christmas, just so that he could make a nonsensical joke about Christmas coming once a year.
Great, like, thing I wish they put right after that line is you're just going like, yeah, because you know she's heard that line like 800 times. Like, every guy that slept with her has been like, I heard Christmas only comes once a year. Yes, Chad, I know, thank you. You did a very good job. But yeah, so I am a huge proponent of Dante's Peak, an incredible movie, mostly for the fact that a volcano shoots a woman in the head.
Dan, you had some ideas about the Dante's Peak sequel that were the Pequel.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Oh, that's what it's called. Dante's Peak 2, the Pequel.
You had some ideas. I'd like to hear them.
So to give you a brief summary of Dante's Peak.
No, you've already done this.
They need to know the plot of Dante's Peak before I pitch them the sequel, or it's going to be nonsense.
You've already done a recap of Dante's Peak on this show before, but fine, go ahead.
I'm going to give you a 3-act structure. All right, so first part. Pierce Brosnan is like hanging out near a volcano with his wife. A volcano shoots his wife in the head. There's really no other way to put it. There's a volcano, a bullet goes in her head and she's dead. The next part, Pierce Brosnan is now a man who hunts volcanoes for a living. He goes to wherever volcanoes are misbehaving and he deals with it. So he goes to a place where there might be a volcano and he seduces Linda Hamilton. That's pretty much the whole middle part of the movie. Part 3, there's a volcano. Everybody dies. They almost die. He gets away. He's now the parent to Linda Hamilton's kids. Like, he's their stepdad. So, alright. That's the plot of Dante's Peak. So, Dante's Peak 2. You gotta do the thing that you always do in the sequel, where if they, like, end up with a happy love interest, you have to immediately and brutally kill the love interest in a way that feels unnecessary.
I'm sure that Linda Hamilton will be happy for the job, and then...
Yeah, just to be immediately killed. Like, it has to be like, they're in the suburbs, they're living a quaint, happy life. Pierce Brosnan has retired from volcano hunting, and he's become a professor of volcanology at the local university. And then suddenly, while he's like walking into the house to see his beautiful wife, Linda Hamilton, boom, magma rains down, but just like only in one part. Just like a ball of magma just lands on her, instantly killing her. And then he gets contacted by the CIA Department of Volcanoes to hunt down the volcano that killed his second wife. And then he has to go on like a globe-trotting adventure. He goes to Brazil and he's like, it was here. Like, the ground is still warm, but it's gone to somewhere else. And eventually he tracks it down to Pompeii and realizes that it was the first volcano. Like, the original volcano that he now needs to kill to end all volcanoes.
I'm on it. This sounds great. Let's send this treatment. I've got the contacts now. I'll have to unblock her. But
I mean, I could probably get Pierce Brosnan's email during the recording of this podcast.
Yeah, here's the thing. We also have a letter of intent from Pierce Brosnan.
Just one sec. Can I find Pierce Brosnan on LinkedIn? Pierce Brosnan. Oh, net worth. Don't even bother me about it. LinkedIn.com. Damn. Well, I mean, there's 10 on there. So either he's one of them or it's just a bunch of very frustrated white dudes.
All right, let's get into this episode of the Andy Griffith Show.
Oh yeah, we talk about television on this.
The episode of the Andy Griffith Show we're talking about today is Season 4, Episode 1, which I think it's a tradition at this point. Like, every single season starts with, like, saddish Opie episode. Opie always starts this. And this is Opie the Birdman. Originally airs September 30th, 1963, written by Harvey Bullock and directed by Dick Crenna, Dick Crenna, the same dude, the guy from Rambo, the Colonel from Rambo.
What?
The first 3 Rambo movies.
The new Bob Sweeney?
We don't have a new Bob Sweeney. It kind of swaps people out. But yeah, Dick Crenna, the guy who tells everyone that they've started a war that you can't win, then is like the Colonel of Rambo, or like his kind of
he's
friend,
the beret guy.
The beret
he's not
guy.
the sheriff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That guy. Yeah, that's Dick Crenna. He directed a bunch of these episodes.
Dick Crenna is one of my favorite topical ointments.
Good for you, man.
Yeah.
You feel good about that one?
No, I just had to get it out of my system.
Okay. And here is the one-sentence description from Wikipedia. Opie kills a mother bird with his new slingshot and decides to care for the 3 baby birds left behind. So let's get into this. This is, as we mentioned, one of the most well-lauded shows or episodes of the series. One of the highest rated television shows of all time. It inspired a bunch of other shows and pretty much is the thesis statement of the Andy Griffith Show, I would say. And it is good. I did enjoy this episode.
I wouldn't really call it that good, but I think the thing that's good about it is it definitely it feels important. Like, it feels like sort of an important story just on the basis of, on an archaeological basis. Like, you can see why it's influential because it does sort of feel like it's... Because, all right, let's talk about, the basic structure of it. Because basically, the first half is Opie kills a bird by accident and has to deal with the concept of death. The second part is Opie raising the bird's babies and having to deal with the concept of aging and having to let go of things. So it's it has sort of these 2 mirror stories that kind of reflect off of each other, and they're both sort of 2 different morals. I would argue that because it kind of tries to do them at the same time, it doesn't really do either of them well. But the other episodes we do focus on one or the other, and I think do it a lot better. But yeah, I think it does sort of, it definitely...
I would agree with that. I think this is also a turning point in the Andy Griffith Show. Maybe I can't say that because I haven't watched the rest of the season, but it definitely feels like this is a milestone. The first 3 seasons, the first season was a weird practice one.
Yeah.
The next 2 seasons were all Bob Sweeney being drunk off highballs. And this is probably a changing moment for the show itself. Maybe. I don't know, because, I haven't watched any of the further episodes. I watched the next one, and it's kind of silly, but after that, we get a fucking Ernest T. Bass episode. So don't worry, folks. Don't worry. I know that every time we talk about a good episode, we all get a little nervous. Don't worry. It'll get bad again very soon. So starting with the scene at the jail. Okay. It opens up with Barney and is with Opie, and they're making a slingshot out of an old inner tube from a tire or whatever. They do this whole thing about David and Goliath, where Barney explains that story kind of, and Opie says, well, that was thousands of years ago in ancient times. And Barney goes, uh-huh. Well, where did David get the inner tube? Where did he get the rubber for the slingshot? And the joke is Barney doesn't know, blah, blah, blah.
And then they kind of stretch the joke out because then Andy explains what an actual sling was as opposed to a slingshot. Barney gets actually furious with him. which, like, having taken some time away from this, definitely, like, takeaway I had was like, oh wow, these guys hate each other.
Yeah, this scene comes across as two people who do not like each other.
Yeah.
Like, I forgot that these guys are supposed to be friends. Especially because this is like the closest that Andy comes to telling Barney, hey, stop it, don't do that.
Yeah.
And turns out, like, we've been waiting for him to do it for 4 years, and it turns out when he does it, Barney just does it anyway. Barney's like, no!
It definitely has pre-divorced parent vibes, where, like, your parents are subtly sniping at each other while teaching you how to read. Like, it definitely has that energy, but, like, they didn't have any direct interactions where Andy didn't hurt Barney's feelings or Barney didn't glare at Andy. Like, they couldn't get through a single interaction. Because it was also, like pre-travel or, like, small-town America, your best friend was just, like, the person you had the most proximity to. Like, you were going to be like, well, Frank is the person I see every single day. I hate him, and he's my enemy. I have, like, 3 people that could be my friends. If I don't like them, I'm a hermit, so I guess, hey, buddy.
These two seem very tired of each other in this scene, right?
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, almost like a middle finger at Bob Sweeney, because Barney starts to do the thing that we all know. Like, Barney's bragging about how great he is, what a good shot he is. And they cut to Andy just, like, sighing and rolling his eyes. As soon as Barney says, I was a great shot, there's just a shot of Andy at the desk going...
And an incredible facial expression from Ron Howard, because he does a child that is, like, mentally checking out. He's like, oh, it's one of these. I'm gonna think about neat race cars for the next 30 to 40 seconds. Like, it's just this weird little flash of self-awareness. It's like half a second.
There was one kind of thing that I chuckled at, which is that Barney talks about all the trick shots that he could do with his slingshot, and he holds it above him, and he goes like, I could do around the world, and then he holds it behind his back, and he says, I could do behind the barn, and I was like, cause your name is Barn.
Yeah.
Cause your name's Barney, and you're holding it behind you. Yeah. It's dumb. Whatever.
That made my brain feel good for a quarter second, yeah.
You all know where this is going. Barney, like, shoots something with the slingshot. He breaks the glass in that bookshelf, which I think we've watched them repair that bookshelf 6 or 7 times by now. Whatever.
They just have that one piece of glass rigged to explode, and they only can break that thing.
Literally all you need to know from this 4-minute scene is Opie has a slingshot now.
Yeah.
That's it. So I'm just going to skip to the next scene. Opie's outside. He's wandering around. First, he's pretending to do the slingshot. He's going, pow! And he's, like, walking around the neighborhood.
He hides in a bush. He pretends to shoot a guy.
At one point in time, just for a brief second, I thought he was going to walk straight into the tree, just the way that they had angled the shot. It didn't happen, but I thought that would have been funny. And he shoots a tree, and then he tries another shot, and on the next shot, a bird falls out.
Yeah.
And Ronnie Howard realizes what he's done. He's like, hey, come on, bird, get up, get up. And we've made fun of Ronnie Howard's acting in this before. This is good.
Tour de force.
Like so good. As
justifies his paycheck for the 3
there are
seasons.
Adult actors who could not have captured this moment the way he did. Because it starts to, you can see it rise on his face what he's done.
Yeah.
And in the way that kids do, just like instant bawling without understanding, and he just runs. He just fight or flight reflex just goes in, and he just runs away crying.
Ron Howard's acting in this 2-minute scene not only justifies the episode, but kind of the entire Andy Griffith show.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, this is the moment that makes this show a thing, I think. Because he does, it's hard to explain how bad he crushes this. There's layers to it. He does a perfect progression. I do want to say just kind of though, fuck you expecting giving a small child a fucking slingshot It shoots rocks. You gave a young boy a device that shoots rocks at a high velocity. Him killing a bird was more or less a best case scenario.
Did you never have a BB gun or a slingshot as a kid, man?
I had a BB gun. My friend shot somebody in the butt with it. The BB gun was taken away. Like, I think every time, like, we had Nerf guns and shit, but yeah, basically, you give a kid a fucking weapon that shoots a hard object at a high velocity. Either an animal's getting hit, a person is getting hit, or a fragile object is getting hit.
Let's see. I never had a BB gun. I had paintball guns. Friends had BB guns, and yeah, those BB guns were definitely used to, like, shoot squirrels and shit. Like,
yeah.
That is absolutely what happened. So I think you're right there.
And
then when I was a teenager, were anyone in your school really into airsoft guns?
Yeah,
Do you remember airsoft guns? They were just BB guns, but like high velocity. They were just, and that was the goal, was to just go out there and shoot your friends with the airsoft gun.
That's kind of like, that was the thing, is like, you would make plans to hang out with like some other boys, and then you would get word that there was going to be an airsoft gun. They'd be like, I'm good. Like,
yeah.
Like, do you, like,
that was my experience too, actually.
Because it wasn't just that you were going to get shot at with an airsoft gun, because it was always like, well, we were hanging out, and then Joey brought out his airsoft gun, and then things escalated rapidly.
Yeah, no. The kids that owned the airsoft guns, and remember, when I say airsoft guns, I'm not talking about BB guns, I'm not talking about paintball guns, I'm talking about a certain specific type of, I guess, a BB gun, but not like the Red Ryder, like shoot your eye out kid one. No, airsoft guns were basically semi-automatic weapons that shot ball bearings that, like, their design was to, like, hurt your friends. Like, that was it. That was the whole purpose. And I had paintball guns. I went and played paintball on the weekend, but, like, and paintballs hurt.
Yeah.
But they are also, like, large and visible, and you usually get hit with, like 1 to 3 at the most. No, airsoft guns were, like, almost exclusively owned by psychopaths.
Yes.
Like, and with irresponsible parents. I'm just gonna say it.
Yeah, if it wasn't owned by a psychopath, if just, like, a normal kid got their hands on an airsoft gun, guess who was coming over to play at some point? A fucking psychopath. Like, that gun was getting in the hands of a kid with poor impulse control. Because there were, like, so many stories where it would be like, oh yeah, how is hanging out with Connor? Oh, well, the airsoft gun came out, and then things got really dark. And, like, because it would be like, we went through a dark night of the soul. Like, emotional traumas were opened up. It
straight up becomes Apocalypse Now once that airsoft gun makes its way into presence.
Like, oh, Phil got his hands on the airsoft gun, and then he started really dealing with the fact that his dad left, and then things just kind of got nuts.
It's basically like the airsoft gun came out, and then I had the conch. And I could talk.
Yeah, like, there was always a moment where it would be like,
that kid's head just splattered.
Just, like, there would always be a moment where, like, all right, Steve, it's your turn with the airsoft gun. All right, Steve, hand it to Nick. And Steve was like, I don't think so. I think this is an interesting development.
Anytime that airsoft gun came out, it was always inevitably going to turn into the betrayal scene in a spy movie. It would always just be like the point where Pierce Brosnan is just like, okay, let's get out of here. And Sean Bean, like, kids turned into Sean Bean when the airsoft gun came out. Every single one of them was just like, no, now it is my turn to shine. Bap, bap, bap. Ah!
Yeah. I think you'll all be listening to my opinions about Toonami shows now. I think the balance of power has changed.
You have two choices. Yu Yu Hakusho or the airsoft.
I'm going to be explaining plots of episodes to you in meticulous detail. Why am I doing this? It's unclear. But again, gun. Why were airsoft guns a thing?
Why did they let us have those? Why did they give that to us as children?
Like, do you know, like, Gen Xers and baby boomers were like, psh, we used to play with lawn darts. We used to be in constant danger. I think we're the first generation to be like, what the fuck were you people thinking? Like,
and honestly, like, again, Andy Griffith fans, right? Andy Griffith fans like to rag on kids of our people of our generation because they say that we were soft and we were coddled by them, by you. Like, whose fault is that? But also, again, guns! We just had them!
yeah.
They just gave them to us!
Like,
Your Red Ryder BB gun ain't shit!
yeah.
We had little tiny ball-bearing M16s! Shut up!
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and move on here. So Opie kills the bird, runs away. Later on, Barney and Andy pull up, and this is just an example of how old TV just had all the time in the world, apparently, because Andy and Barney pull up, and they have a conversation, a full-on conversation that goes nowhere, where it's just like, Andy's like, hey, do you want to come in for dinner? Aunt B's making a special, like, Chinese food deal, and Barney goes, oh, she's making Chinese? And Andy goes, yeah, she got a recipe out of the newspaper. Barney says, yeah, well, that's interesting, but I better do something else. I'll talk to you later. Okay, bye. There's not a joke there. It's kind of a setup for a joke that comes later, but not really. That entire, you know how bored you were listening to me recap? That was on television.
It's like they're doing a reoccurring joke, but it's not a joke. It's a reoccurring point of conversation. Just a thing that you talk about a couple of times. Like, you know, that thing from your life? The thing that happens to you all the time that is untelevised? It's almost like bewildering. We've talked about, like, how old shows in the 60s and 70s had all the time in the fucking world to show someone going up and down the stairs or dialing a phone. You have no fucking idea how much dead air these people had to kill. Where it could just be like... Like, I feel like after a certain point, if I, like, went obscure enough, I could just watch a show where, like, someone just, just lists colors. Like, just in between, like, beats that they had to just go, green, blue, oh, there's red, there's also red. Like, they just had so much dead air to kill.
So, later on that night, they're all around dinner. It's Opie, Andy, and Aunt B. That Chinese food that they just mentioned, well, it didn't get cooked anyway. And the explanation is kind of a joke, but not really.
She threw away the piece of newspaper that had the second part of the instruction
recipe. Yeah. And I don't know, Opie's sad. He's not paying attention. Andy says, oh, hey, tell Mrs. Snyder she needs to keep her cat at home. That cat killed one of our songbirds earlier. And this was a point of contention in our house. The first time we watched it, my girlfriend said, Andy, you're being a dick right now. And I argued, like, that, no, Andy clearly does not suspect Opie at this point. And the second time I watched it, it became very clear. Like, he doesn't think it's Opie. He doesn't think it's Opie until Aunt B said, Mrs. Snyder and her cat left a week ago. They're out of town. And that's when Opie runs away, and you can watch the wheels turn in Andy's head, and suddenly, like, he has a good moment where he, like, realizes, oh. So he goes up to his room, and this is probably the best shot scene we've seen in a long time. Bob Sweeney had some good directorial moments, but this is fucking hard.
Yeah.
Just a hard moment, and I'm just...
A very tense scene, like... So Opie's got, like, run upstairs. He's, like, distraught. He's laying down on the bed. Andy comes up and just says, all right, spill it. And it doesn't even, like, let Opie say it. Just goes, you killed a bird. I told you to be careful with the slingshot, and you killed a bird. Opie says he's sorry, and Andy says, sorry is not a magic word that's going to bring that bird back to life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think that's hard? You haven't seen shit yet.
Yeah, because
he's about to get a lot harder.
Opie asks if he's gonna get a whipping, which Andy says no. But what he then does is he opens Opie's window and says, those birds are crying out for their mom. You better listen to them for a while. And then fucking leaves. And there's a lot to unpack there. One thing is, man, even in a show where they kind of make a point to never have Andy beat Opie, the fucking the dagger of child beating is just hanging over this show the entire time. Like, it's sort of like a weird, ever-present element that, like, Andy could beat Opie, but he's choosing not to. It's not really a commentary or anything, just, like, fucking weird. Do you think... I feel like Opie was very clearly, like, emotionally devastated, and Andy is just like, I'm gonna fucking drive this home.
Yeah.
Like... Listen to the desperate cries of your victims, Opie. Seems like it might have been a little overboard.
He did that, and literally, like I said out loud, fuck!
Yeah. It would be one thing if Opie was like, yeah, Pa, I don't see what the big deal is. It's just a bird. And then Andy's like, well, listen to these babies die.
The way that they did it, the way that he did it, I don't have that much issue with it. Yeah. Number one, because it was a good cinematic moment. Like,
yeah,
it was it got a response out of me the way that this show has not done in the past.
It's not something I find offensive. I wouldn't fucking do it as a dad. I probably would have eased back on the throttle. But like, it's fucking.
I don't know. Neither of us are parents. That's an interesting one, but it's a good moment. It's solid and it's a lesson. But then there's an entirely complete tonal shift because it closes on that, cut to commercial, come back next morning. Hi, Ope, what are you doing? Like, he doesn't even seem upset the next day.
Yeah.
And
everything's fine.
And Opie is gathering bugs and worms because he's going to feed it. Now he's Opie the Mother. Now he's feeding the birds. Winkin', Blinkin', and Nod, he has named them. And that's the gag, right? Now Opie is taking responsibility for, not the gag, but the point. Opie's now taking responsibility for these orphaned birds because it's his fault.
Which I think is definitely the thing that feels missing from this, is there's no middle. Like, they don't do a shot of Opie, like, deciding to take care of the birds. It's just like there's no turn. It's just
you don't think that him listening to the birds that his dad just opened the window for serves that purpose?
No, it feels like there's no middle, because it goes problem, solution, which is like pretty common for this like show where it's like, well, Opie, here's the lesson you should learn from this story. And Opie's like, I learned it. I internalized it. I'm acting upon it. And Andy's like, okay, cool. Like, there's no, like, it's just like, yeah, there's no middle, which is cool because they're two separate stories that have been like stapled together. Yeah, because he learned that lesson. It was like, actions have consequences, death is permanent.
It's kind of like part 1 and part 2. Right?
Yeah, and now he is learning a completely different lesson.
So part 2 is basically for the next couple of scenes. It's just new ways of Opie taking care of these birds. Barney gives him a set of tweezers that he can use to feed the birds.
Explains that his logic behind it is you're not supposed to touch food that you give an animal. He uses the example of hunters on safari. Andy makes a snide comment about that. Barney is furious. Again, like, they do not have a good relationship, at least not in this episode.
Opie hears somewhere that if a human touches the bird has to die, which is a weird, morbid superstition.
Yeah.
But I do want to clear something up right here, right? As Marty Schneider, friend to all birds, there is a misconception that if you see a baby bird whose parents aren't around and you pick it up, that your scent will appear on that bird, that baby bird, and the mother will abandon it then. This is not true. This is not true. Birds do not have super powerful senses of smell, right? So your weird human stink isn't enough to make a mother bird abandon its young. Mm-hmm. What's much more likely happening, though, is that bird is not abandoned. Like, that baby bird isn't abandoned. You just don't see the mom. You just don't see the parent, and you're getting in the way. And you might actually be drawing attention to that baby bird. So, most of the time, if you see a baby bird, like, that looks like it's flailing or whatever, just chill out for a minute. Unless it's, like, bald, unless it's, like, a hairless, completely, obviously, like, baby bird, like, then you can pick it up and put it back in the nest. But most of the time, it's chill. Just let it go. Just sit back and enjoy the miracle of nature.
Go touch birds. That is the lesson you should learn.
Clearly the opposite of what I said.
It is okay to touch birds. It is open season on bird touching. Go out and do it.
far from what I said.
Find a nest, get in there with your little fingers, wriggle around, really experience it. You thought that you couldn't touch baby birds before. Newsflash, you can do it all you fucking want. Get in there.
When the park rangers haul you off, tell them Marty Schneider said it was okay.
Yeah.
I'm literally a Mark Trail villain. Don't take any advice from me when it comes to nature.
Go touch some birds.
I'm an enemy of nature. No, don't touch birds. I believe what I said was leave birds alone.
I missed that part. I'm not what you call an active listener. Yeah, so...
You're not what I'd call a good person.
Touching birds is awesome, and apparently it has no consequences. I don't see what the problem is here.
So, anyway, yeah, the next couple of scenes are basically just different ways of taking care of a bird.
It's very cute and nice and makes me feel warm. Like, It was good. Like...
Yeah, it's pretty good. And then, but it's all building to something. And it's building to Opie's gonna have to let those birds go. Like... He's raised them, they've gotten bigger, and they're trying to get out of there. First, they're too big for their nest, then they're too big for the cage, and then it's like, it's time. It is time.
Yeah, that's kind of like the general thrust of things is they are gradually coming to terms, and there's not like a turn where this comes up where Andy is like, you're going to have to release the birds. Like, minute one, Andy is like, all right, these are really cute, and I'm really proud of you for taking care of these birds. You do know you're going to have to let them go eventually, right? And Opie's like, yeah! And then, like, basically everything that happens after is Andy's like, it's getting closer to the time to let the birds go. And Opie's like, yeah, I'm upset about it. And then it gets closer, and then they get to the final point, and Andy's like, it's time to release the birds. And, like... Barney pushes back and he's like, no, maybe a couple more days. And Andy's like, yeah, maybe a couple more days. And Opie's like, what about a couple more days? And then they all just...
Again, being like Opie's two dads. Like,
yeah.
Again, like a married couple that can't get on the same page.
And it is like kind of this like nice moment where they all sort of realize one after another, like, no, it's time to release the birds. Like, it's not like there's not like a conflict in it. No one gets in an argument. It's just like they all kind of slowly come to the conclusion. Yeah.
I liked that, right? Because that is how kids learn, right? You can repeat a point to them. You can say the point, and they'll go, yeah, I get it. But it has to like occur to them on their own. Children and apparently 44-year-old deputies.
So... they have this really nice moment, which is then concluded by Opie just straight up throwing the birds. Just like, oh, goodbye.
There's this moment where he's just like, what if I didn't do it right? What if I can't teach them all the right things? And what if they can't fly? Which, by the way, that's why you're not allowed to, like, raise wild birds. That's why that's illegal. Because, no, you can't teach a bird to fly. Like, that's not a thing that you can do. But... Again, we're in TV world, and Opie's like, what if I didn't do all the right things? Like, what if they can't fly away? And then Opie, who is, remember, concerned about them not being able to fly, picks up each bird and flings it. Just
woo! Just like that, for that happened the first time, I was like, all like curled up on the couch. I was like, this is a nice moment. Then Opie hucks a bird, and I'm like, Jesus! Don't you throw that second bird. Do not throw that second bird. No! Damn it! Damn it! Don't throw the third bird. Don't, you little fucker! Like, it's... Like, have you ever, and if you've, like, walked down the streets in a city, you see all, like, the little carcasses of birds that did not succeed at flying once pushed out of the nest. And that, like, flashed in my head of, like, oh, odds are not good that all three of the birds would be able to fly. And Opie would just throw one that would immediately, like, just faceplant and die. I know that's not going to happen because it's a TV show for children, but, like, that was my immediate, like, visceral reaction of, like, he's going to throw that fucking bird and one of them is going to die. Like...
He throws all three birds and all three birds fly. And then they get to the climactic line where Opie looks back at the cage and says, wow, this cage sure seems empty. And Andy says, yeah, but listen, the trees seem nice and full, don't they? Good moment. Yeah. All right, yeah, that's a sweet moment. There are three things about this, just three, like, details that I noticed in this episode that don't really go anywhere. So I'm just going to tack them all on the end here. Number 1, weird, interesting detail. I don't think it means anything. It's just an odd piece of set design. In that scene where they're up in Opie's room and he's forced to listen to the birds, Opie's got a wooden gun on his nightstand.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's just a gun. Like it's clearly a fake gun, but it not at first. I said clearly, not
in black and white. It looks like a gun.
Yeah, and he's just got a gun, just a wooden gun hanging out there. So I'm just like,
I thought I was insane for thinking I saw that. Like it was like at the end of the season, I was at the last second of the scene. I was like, was that a gun?
Yeah, there's a gun on his nightstand. Yeah. Again, I don't think that means anything. It does put the whole like moral of this episode kind of in a weird perspective, but like I don't think there was any thought or meaning behind that. Point number 2. The like shirt that Opie is wearing for the latter half of this, that shirt fucking rules. It's black and white, so I don't know what color it is, but I imagine it's purple and it's got like this cool funky print on it, and it is both button and zipper. I guess there's buttons on the collar and a zipper, and I'm just like, yeah, me. And I kind of realized while watching this that like me, a grown adult man, mostly dresses like Opie Taylor.
Honestly, Opie Taylor's wardrobe is pretty sick. Like, yeah. Everyone on the Andy Griffith Show dresses in like a suit or a jumpsuit or a onesie or some stupid bullshit. Opie is really the only one wearing varied clothing. Consistently a good look.
Always good look. Opie's got a tight fit. And then so the third thing I noticed is that this episode influenced not 1 but 2 later Don Knotts movies. Because there's an entire scene dedicated to Don Knotts doing bird calls and just like having a bit after the bird calls. Because apparently that was just a thing that he could actually do in real life. And they found a way to shoehorn into the script. I have seen The Love God, a film in which Don Knotts plays the publisher of a bird-watching magazine who then accidentally becomes a pornographer. And there is an entire subplot about him being able to do bird calls. And then the stinger, which has nothing to do with anything, but it's a silly bit. Dan, would you like to explain the stinger?
Okay, so the stinger, the fool is deluded into believing that fish can speak human language. Basically, Barney gets Opie a fish as a pet. Andy puts a radio underneath the fish bowl, and Barney, for a brief moment of childlike wonder, believes that fish can speak human language and are talking to him. And Andy like reveals the radio, and Barney's like, "Oh, I'm mad. I hate you. We have a friendship based on animosity and lack of respect." And but like, yeah. So and definitely, I could see that being like Don Knotts walking away and be like, "Hey, what if the fish could talk about mundane subjects, though? Do you think there's a movie there? Do you think what if?" Like, cause he's just holding, like, the traffic report underneath the fish. And he was basically, what if fish did say shit as boring as the traffic report? Which is the origin of The Incredible Mr. Limpet.
God, that movie's boring.
Yeah. A movie in which Don Knotts turns into a magical fish.
And does nothing.
Mostly discusses finance. Like, mostly explains pensions to you.
He turns into a magical fish, and his immediate thought is like, how will this affect my life insurance plan?
Yes.
He's just talking about his fucking 401 fish K. Like,
a movie in which a magical fish fights Nazis that is unbelievably boring for the sentence that I just said.
So yeah, there's not 1 but 2 Don Knotts movies originated from this episode.
Yeah. All right, so should we talk about the examples of other shows doing this better?
Yeah, so we watched 2 other TV shows that had similar plot lines. One is a very obvious one, and the other one was me throwing Dan for a fucking loop, because I'm like, yeah, man, guess what we're going to watch?
We did have the question of, did Marty do some sort of Googling where he found the episode of The New Adventures of Winnie-the-Pooh that also had a similar plotline, or has Marty just been watching The New Adventures of Winnie-the-Pooh in his free time?
Neither of those answers is correct. So, yeah, Dan, that's the punchline of that I was stepping on. We did an episode of The Simpsons called Bart the Mother, and we also watched season 1, episode 3 of The New Adventures of Winnie-the-Pooh. which is called Find Her, Keep Her. And the answer is, Dan, I watched that episode of New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh as a child.
Oh!
As a young child. And it has stayed with me ever since. I'm fully comfortable admitting it. It is the first time I ever remember crying at like a piece of media or like a TV show or anything as a kid. So like it has just sat with me forever from childhood. And as soon as I watched the Andy Griffith Show episode, I was like, I'm going to show this to Dan and fuck his shit up.
It almost made me an adult stone cold sober man cry. Like I got like to the precipice. It's actually like a really fucking good version of this story.
Yeah.
I watched the New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh as a kid. Was the New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh fucking awesome?
I think it might be. I think it might have been. Right?
Was that just a sleeper? That like, because we've gone through all of the stuff where we've been like, yeah, Doug, yeah, Rocco's Modern Life, yeah. Was New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh just like bringing fire? Like,
and we just let it just like slip under the radar? Maybe. I don't know. It did have, I forgot how good the theme song was. So, you know, screw it. Like, we'll get to The Simpsons later. Let's talk about the New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, which, like, I want to point out all three of these television shows have the same runtime, 22 minutes.
Yes.
There is so much story in this Pooh Bear episode. It is packed so densely.
There is an hour and a half of movie in this 22 minutes, and it does not feel cramped. It's insane. So let's establish. So based off the thing I said before, both of the examples that we have focus on a different side of the story. So Simpsons focuses on child kills bird. This focuses on letting the bird go. Because otherwise we would have to show Rabbit murdering two bird parents. So just like Rabbit standing over like a bird carcass, be like, I thought it was a burglar. Oh God, I've never even touched this gun. Oh God. Yeah, like so Rabbit rescues a baby bird. Like there's like this big windstorm and this infant bird is getting blown around, and Rabbit like jumps to the rescue and raises and grabs it. And Winnie the Pooh and all of them are like, we'll raise it for you. Good job, Rabbit. You're not the type to want to do this thing. And he's like, you guys would fuck this up so bad. I don't want to raise this bird. I hate this bird. He got in the way of all my important business, but I cannot in good conscience let you three dipshits be responsible for a living thing, so I guess this is my job now.
I want to point out, by the way, this is what I mean when I say how dense this is. I just went to the ultra rumbly Winnie the Pooh wiki, and I went to the plot summary of this episode, and I copied and pasted it into a Word doc, and it is 1,500 words long.
Jesus Christ.
I'm not reading all this shit.
We devoted too much time to the Andy Griffith Show episode.
We can't do this Winnie the Pooh episode justice.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So how do we even do this? Because there's so much shit to get through.
Yeah. So this is season 1, episode 4 of The New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Originally it airs February 7th, 1988. Written by Mark Zaslav, Doug Hutchinson, and Larry Bernard, and directed by Carl Gors and David Block. Here is your 8-paragraph summary from Wikipedia.
Yeah. Do you want to just do the summary and then we'll talk about it?
Yeah. So basically, as you said, and so the next couple of days are Rabbit being a parent, taking care of a baby bird who, like, is a toddler, basically, at this point. He names the bird Cassie, and Cassie is crying and, you know, doesn't communicate very well because it's a baby, and there are antics that happen, right? At one point, Rabbit needs a break, so Pooh and Piglet give Cassie a bath, and then there's too many bubbles, blah, blah, blah. And then what happens basically is Rabbit kind of says, please don't fly again, Cassie. Don't fly away, Cassie, because I don't want anything to happen to you. And then we cut to, again, go to commercial, come back. Now it's spring. And Cassie is like a teenage bird. And there are a bunch of encounters, basically. Number one, Rabbit finds a carrot in a pot, and it's a gift for him. Cassie said it was the very first carrot that she planted, because he taught her to plant. It's very sweet. Then she goes out bouncing with Uncle Tigger. And they bounce to the top of a very tall tree, and the tree falls over, and then there's a really dramatic moment, right? Where like, they almost kill this bird. Like,
okay, so the tree falls over. Cassie doesn't know how to fly yet.
They are on the edge of a cliff. They falls off on the edge of a cliff.
A Winnie-the-Pooh cliff, so inexplicably high up, like 40 stories for some reason.
Yeah, what the hell? Was the 40-acre wood built on a fucking canyon? In Moab Valley in Utah? What the hell?
Did they just, like
Christopher Robin plays here.
Did they just terraform the canyon from Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner? Like,
it looks like the hill that Calvin and Hobbes rolled down in their wagon.
Yeah. But, so they're hanging over this fucking death ledge, and Cassie and Tigger are hanging off of the edge. A Rabbit runs up to fucking save them, has Tigger throw Cassie up. He doesn't get her hand all the way, and she slips out and falls, to her fucking death. And Tigger comes up and he's like, wow, there's nothing you could have done, man.
No, Rabbit jumps after her.
Oh, yeah.
Rabbit jumps down after her, and Tigger has to grab onto Rabbit and stop Rabbit from throwing himself to his death after his adopted daughter.
Basically yells, there's no reason for both of you to die. Which, fuck you, Tigger.
What the fuck?
I am so mad at Tigger. I never liked Tigger as a kid. I was always like, this guy's a dick. He's irresponsible and narcissistic. And this is like, what if, because Owl swoops in and saves Cassie, but what if he had it?
Right.
What if that had just been Tigger and Rabbit's relationship forever, where Tigger is like, well, buddy boy, I'm really sorry I killed the only thing you've ever called a son. And Rabbit's just like, get off my property. Rabbit just becomes a bitter alcoholic.
No, straight up, Rabbit's just like a latter-day Clint Eastwood character after a certain point. Just drinking and screaming at people.
Well, Tigger would obviously remain completely oblivious. I was so mad. But yeah, Owl swoops down, saves Cassie. And it starts to basically come up. Owl explains flying to Cassie, and Cassie's like, I need to fucking do this. I am a bird. I need to fly south for the winter.
And, Cassie goes behind Rabbit's back and tries to get flying lessons from everyone. She asks Pooh to push her out of a swing so that she can try flying. But they're doing it all very secretly. They tie Piglet Piglet ties a slingshot to two trees, which is pretty funny at some point. And then basically Rabbit comes up and is just like, hey, you are teaching my child to do something against my wishes. Yeah.
And then they accidentally fire Rabbit out of a slingshot off the same goddamn cliff.
Which is so funny.
Move to a different place. And then Cassie saves him by flying. Is that right? Am I remembering that?
Yeah. They launch Rabbit out into the atmosphere, and then Cassie goes, because she can fly now, and saves him. And there's a lot of stuff going on here in Rabbit's psyche. There's a lot of stuff going on. Rabbit kind of knows deep down that what he's doing is wrong, but he can't let his daughter go.
This is the first time that he's ever allowed himself to open up emotionally to another living thing, so he's deeply attached, and he feels like if Cassie leaves, that part of him will die forever. Not even reading into it that much. So
this is not subtext. This is the text.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of been established, okay, well, if Cassie can fly, she can go south. It's time for her to go south again. So I guess it's been it's winter to fall, right? This story takes place over the course of a year.
Yeah.
And And then Rabbit kind of acts like a jerk here, but like
kind of like abusive parent vibes.
Just like disappointed. I'm not gonna go as far as to say Rabbit is an abusive parent. But
but this is like
manipulative. He's definitely manipulative.
If you put this scene in like the first part of a movie, it would be like the beginning of like a Hitchcockian family drama about like how a relationship went bad. Like, because it's basically he forbids her from flying, and he says that she has to stay here, and she says that she needs to go, and he basically like says like get the fuck out, never come back. What does he say? Basically, to sleep.
Number one, I have the 1,500 word summary in front of me, Dan.
Sorry, I'm recollecting this. I yield the floor.
So, Rabbit knows that it's gonna happen now, right? And like Cassie, who is still a kid, kind of, is just like asked Rabbit to read her a bedtime story, and Rabbit declines. Says, "You don't need me to read you a bedtime story. You don't need me for anything." And then she just bawls. She just starts crying on this major Jewish mom guilt trip that Rabbit just laid down on him.
It's a brutal scene. As like she's crying by the fire, and Rabbit just like sits in his room, not going to her. Like it's fucking brutal.
So I mean, it ends with like everybody gathering to say goodbye to Cassie, and Rabbit is not there. You know. And Cassie is like, I don't know where Rabbit is. And Pooh and Tigger are trying to comfort her as she leaves for college, basically. Like, that's what this is. Like, as she leaves to go away to college. And we find out that the reason why Rabbit is not there is he is in his house looking desperately for that carrot that was planted, Chekhov's carrot, which was in the pot, so that he can give it to her. And then he, like, when he gets there, Cassie's gone. Like, she's already left, and he drops the carrot over the side of the cliff in this moment. And then she comes back. It's like, of course I wouldn't leave without saying goodbye. And then she flies away, and then there's a sweet moment between Pooh and Piglet later on, talking about, like, Rabbit, like, caring so much, and, you know, what love is. And it's very sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the episode ends with Rabbit staring out, waiting for spring so that Cassie will come back. Which, by the way, Dan, Cassie does come back.
Aw.
Just in case.
Like she's like a reoccurring character?
Yeah. Cassie does come back.
That's cool. That's a good fucking show. Like, that's only 22 fucking
22 minutes!
That level of fucking pathos. Like, Adventure Time, eat your fucking heart out.
Just a lot of fucking time. It's efficient storytelling.
Yeah. Like, honestly, like, I would watch this, but like, I want it to be the Rabbit show. Like, cause I know as an adult millennial, I identify very strongly with Rabbit. I just want it to be the story of this,
this neurotic gardening addict, this neurotic vegan. Yeah, that tracks.
This neurotic vegan forced to deal with a parade of dipshits who won't leave his property. Yeah, I sympathize with that.
I think that was the plot of the movie Mother.
Yeah. So yeah, fuck Tigger, man. Fuck Tigger. Fuck Tigger, that criminally negligent. Tigger should be in jail. Like, I'm gonna say that. I've always kind of had that opinion. Well,
good thing now you have a platform to deliver it.
Yeah, like, even as a kid, I was anti-Tigger, which tells you what kind of fucking child I was,
You were such a lame fucking kid. You're a lame fucking adult, but you were the lamest kid.
I sympathize with Piglet as a kid. But it was always like, listen, every time Tigger shows up, things get fucking out of hand, and Piglet is very distressed.
Tigger is a living, breathing, bouncing airsoft gun.
Yes, exactly. Tigger was the friend that bought a butterfly knife to hanging out, and suddenly everything was a lot more intense. God, yeah. So, all right. So to talk about like why this works, I guess, and how it relates to the Andy Griffith Show. Yeah, it's all about the journey of like letting go, which like the Andy Griffith Show kind of establishes a framework for. But it goes through the whole journey of, like, it spreads that out into, like, sort of a hero's journey, like, rise and decline, where it sort of does follow the same pattern, though, of, like, gradually having that realization come. Like, the thing that happens where Andy realizes it, Barney realizes it, Opie realizes it, but it's just spread out over 22 minutes.
I like how in the Andy Griffith Show, right, you mentioned that Andy and Barney and Opie all have to come to the realization. So it doesn't matter, right, that they're adults.
Yeah.
And in the New Adventures of Winnie-the-Pooh, Rabbit he's an adult rabbit, but
yeah.
I don't know what the canon is as far as New Adventures go, but he's also still the imagination of a child, right? Like, he's still a figure that came from a child's imagination.
What if I just disagreed with you vehemently? I was just like, no, Rabbit's real. Like,
I mean, maybe. Again, I don't know what the canon is on this show.
Yeah.
Like, I will say, because I remember distinctly another episode of The New Adventures of Winnie-the-Pooh. Apparently, just this show lodges up in my brain. There is a scene where Christopher Robin takes Pooh and Tigger to a grocery store, and Tigger manages to take over the PA system, the announcements of the grocery store, and other people can hear him. So,
well, maybe that was just Christopher Robin having an episode.
Potentially, like, so so other people can hear Tigger. So,
as a kid, were you distressed by the Calvin and Hobbes is Hobbes real question?
Constantly.
I had the giant like thick compendium of Calvin and Hobbes comics, and there was one thing that was like written by Bill Watterson, and he was like, Hobbes is clearly imaginary. Unless you were a child reading it, in which case, no, he is real. And I was like, whew! Oh, thanks, Bill Watterson.
Good to know.
Okay, he is real. Awesome. You had me scared there for a second.
Yeah, but so what I was saying there is basically like, it's another combination there, right? It doesn't matter if you are an adult human or an adult rabbit or a child human. This feeling is constant, and it doesn't get easier. You're going to have to realize it every single time it happens. And I thought that was, like, I think that's a nice connection.
You know, whether or not you're a man, a child, a thin fascist, or a rabbit, I think we can all come together in this emotional journey, but only those things.
Only those things. Well, what if you are a Simpson?
Yeah. So, okay. So
what if you're Bart Simpson?
So the Simpsons goes the opposite route, which is why this whole thing kind of lined up so fucking cool, which is the Simpsons basically does the first half of it. Child kills bird and experiences the consequences of having to take a life. And then they do the second half of the Andy Griffith Show episode, but it's like 5 minutes and they're just like, fuck it, lizards. Like, they basically do the Andy Griffith Show episode, but then at the end, they just throw off a stink bomb and run away.
Yeah. The way that The Simpsons always goes is like the first 8 minutes of The Simpsons is always a decoy plot anyway, right?
Yeah.
So this is Season 10, Episode 3, originally aired September 27th, 1998, Bart the Mother, written by David X. Cohen, directed by Stephen Dean Moore. And yeah, so that is the plot. If you're not familiar with this episode of The Simpsons, it is the one where Bart goes over to Nelson's against his mom's wishes, and Nelson has a BB gun that he won from stealing prize tickets from the local family fun center. And Bart goes over there to use the BB gun, much like we were talking about earlier. Nelson is absolutely the kid with the airsoft gun. And Nelson pressures Bart to shoot a bird.
Yeah.
And this is such an interesting, like, balancing act for, I think, the writers of The Simpsons, because you have to write Bart as a shithead, but not a psychopath, right? And this is like kind of like one of the things I never understood about The Simpsons, and I don't think The Simpsons ever really cared about it, is like where Bart ranks on the social ladder. Like, is he cool with the bullies? Is he not friends with? Do they bully him? Do they get together and bully Milhouse, who is also Bart's best friend? I don't know. It's never really clear, but you get the sense like Bart wants to be cool with these people. So, but also Bart doesn't want to shoot a bird.
It's like like not a criticism of the Simpsons because fuck it, but like they kind of wanted to have their cake and eat it too with Bart, where they wanted him to be like the cool kid with the attitude and the skateboard, but also they wanted him to be the nerd that gets picked on, and he's like the underdog, and like so like the whole situation is constantly changing.
I think they handled it very well in this episode, right? Bart is, a rebellious enough kid to sneak out and act out and go to Nelson's house to do things that he knows he's not supposed to do. But when Nelson ups the ante and says, let's kill that bird, Bart doesn't want to do it. And the way that, because in order to do this Andy Griffith plot, right, the killing of the bird has to be unintentional.
Yeah.
So they had to find a way to differentiate Bart from Opie's just shooting wildly or whatever. And they couldn't just do that. So Bart has to make an active choice, right? And there's a good moment where he has the bird in his sights, and then he shoots away to the right, intentionally trying to miss. And he hits the bird anyway because he didn't know this, but the BB gun has a trick sight.
Yeah.
Like, the sight on the BB gun is broken, and he was not aware of that. And that's also what this episode is about, is Marge has finally gotten sick of Bart's crap and is just like, do what you want, I don't care, abandoning, Bart to the wild, essentially, as Bart takes on new responsibility because he feels bad about what he's done immediately, and then he takes care of in this case, it's 2 eggs.
Yeah.
Right? It's not baby birds, it's 2 eggs, and he has to serve as a mother to those 2 eggs.
Yeah. So they escalate the culpability, because Opie's culpability is just, he thought he was shooting at a tree, he didn't know there was a bird in the tree, he killed a bird. Bart has to, basically make every single decision that leads to him killing a bird, but then try to, chicken out at the last second, and then fail to do so. So, Bart has to be as culpable for the death of the bird as possible without making the final decision to kill the bird.
Yes.
Because, it's all about, the crime and the road to redemption. It's really, the rising action is basically leading up to the killing of the bird, and then the falling action is, everything that comes after, which is basically just Marge saying, I'm done with you. Not even really, because he says, I have done something really bad and I deserve to be punished, and she's like, no, this is beyond punishment.
I think you don't get a whole lot of Bart and Marge episodes.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of episodes that focus around Bart and Marge's relationship. There's more, I think, that focus around Homer and Lisa's.
Yeah.
So that's kind of nice, right? Number one, I always kind of like it when Marge gets some kind of spotlight, because she's always kind of the unsung hero, tragic hero of The Simpsons. And this one's between the 2 of them, and there's a good moment. So after Bart raises the eggs, Marge, after washing her hands of it, has this good moment where she looks at whatever Bart is doing up in the treehouse and says, I wonder what he's doing in there. I don't know, and I don't want to know, and I'm going to find out. And it's such a good mom moment. It's just pure, distilled mom. And she discovers what's going on right as the eggs are about to hatch. And then they have kind of a bonding moment. And when the eggs do hatch, they're not birds. They are Bolivian tree lizards who have, placed their eggs inside, cuckoo style, inside of a bird's nest.
They're a parasitic invasive species.
Yeah.
When you were a kid, did you have rumors of the snakehead fish?
Yeah. No, I don't think there were rumors. Snakehead fish are fucking real.
Are they fucking real? Because they sounded insane when
They're real. The wildlife reserve in South Philly has fishing days where they'll give you money how many of those fish you catch.
Can they actually? Because the rumor I had when I was as a kid, where later I was like, that there's no way that was fucking real, is that they can get up and walk from body of water to body of water.
Oh well, that's not true. But what they can do is fucking hide inside of boats, basically attach themselves to boats.
God damn. Yeah, so I think that was, like, the basis for this. It definitely had, like, lantern butterfly vibes. Or not, sorry, lanternfly vibes. I'm gonna look up a fucking snakehead fish.
I've got them right here now, yeah. I've got the Wikipedia in front of me.
Yeah, they just look like shitty fish. Oh, wait, no, they got those fucking teeth.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, speaking of the spotted lanternfly, yeah, so Bart takes these two lizards to the bird watching society led by Principal Skinner because they're arguing over what kind of bird it is, and Lisa's the only one that says it's not a bird, obviously. Principal Skinner says, all right, well, these are invasive species. I'm going to kill them gruesomely. Legally, they have to be killed as quickly and gruesomely as possible is the line he gets, which is kind of funny. And then there's a good moment, right, where Bart runs off with them and like, he tells his mom, he tells Marge, listen, I know everyone thinks that these are monsters, but I raised them and I love them. I know that's hard to understand. And Marge goes, it's not that hard to understand.
Yeah.
And tells him to run, and she covers for him, which is good. It's nice and sweet. Side note, and the show knows it because it called attention to it. It's slightly undercut by how shitty she treats Nelson for this entire episode.
Yeah.
Like, she does call Nelson a monster and does say that, like, Nelson is a sad, lonely child and therefore he needs to be shut off from society and shunned.
Well, there is the episode where she basically adopts Nelson.
Yeah.
It definitely... They make an extra point. I think this is like because the degree to which Nelson is a developed character varies wildly depending on like where you are in the continuity. Sometimes, and this is one of the ones where he is like the realist portrayal of like the troubled kid, because they do show that basically his mom doesn't fucking care. He like just like is completely left to fend for himself.
At one point in time, he's frying a carrot by himself while humming the Simpsons theme song.
Yeah. But yeah, basically it just goes, and then the lizards escape, they decimate the pigeon population.
Yeah, there's a fun bit that Lisa has about like pointing out that Bart was really sad when he killed one bird, but now he's accidentally killed 10,000.
Yeah.
And Bart's like, huh. Oh well.
Yeah, just been like, that is weird, and then leaves.
It does have one of my favorite Simpsons lines about the gorilla, or about...
They do like an old lady who swallowed the fly thing, but with
I'm gonna cut that because like two guys reciting Simpsons quotes is unlistenable.
This is the fucking challenge of talking about the Simpsons in terms of like just talking about it, because you have the powerful instinct to just quote Simpsons lines. Like, it is like, I have been resisting just saying verbatim Simpsons quotes this entire time with every fiber of my being. Like, it's impossible. And like, even doing a critical analysis of the Simpsons feels weird, because it definitely feels like a thing that you almost shouldn't talk about in ways other than just going like, I must return to my home planet. Poochie died on the way to his home planet. Like, it feels like the only way you should really use The Simpsons anymore is to do pictures of people talking underneath politicians being shitheads on Twitter. Like, that really feels like the appropriate use, but, like, it's definitely... Having seen this episode of The Andy Griffith Show makes this episode of The Simpsons way better. Yeah. Because they do a much better version of the Andy Griffith Show episode, and then at the end just go completely fucking berserk and end with a joke about gorillas freezing to death.
Yeah, it is definitely the best Andy Griffith Show episode, and like maybe a top 50 Simpsons episode. It is. Do the math of that what you will.
Yeah, so I think did we put together anything coherent from that, do you think? We're rusty.
I don't know. I feel like we drew kind of several points. You know what we forgot to do? Ratings!
Yes! Okay, Andy Griffith Show episode. It's 10 and a 0. Like, right?
Right. No, for sure. If this is your first time listening to the show, I'm sorry. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, we rate these episodes on the Andy meter, which is how good this episode is, and the Barney meter, which is like how how badly did this episode hurt a generation. And yeah, Dan is correct. It is 10 and possibly a negative Barney meter. I think generally like this episode would have had positive ramifications. If anything.
The Winnie-the-Pooh episode has the score of 2 crying adult men. So like I think that's like the ranking it gets. And the Simpsons episode is an episode of The Simpsons.
It's yeah.
It gets 1 episode of The Simpsons, which also translates to 3 King of the Hills or 47 South Parks.
I like that conversion rate.
Yeah, I think that I went completely off the cuff with that, but that feels right.
It feels right.
Yeah.
And that's basically it. Not bad for our first time back in a while. So thanks once again for tuning in. It's nice to be back, I guess. Relatively. As always, you can
friend.
As always, you can get to us on the internet. On Twitter, we are at Break Mayberry. Facebook.com/Breaking Mayberry. Twitter.com/Break Mayberry. Instagram, we're Breaking Mayberry. You know what? That's my goal for this year, is to actually use Instagram to promote our show.
Do you want to just post pictures of my dog?
Sure.
Yeah.
We have dogs and cats. They're adorable.
Yeah, let's just put pictures of our pets on the Instagram. That's like about as good of a usage as we're going to get from it, right?
On the internet, online, I am Schneid Remarks. That's SCHNEID Remarks.
I'm at the Luds, 2 Ds.
If you want to support us with your money dollars, we are patreon.com/Breaking Mayberry. Otherwise, anything you do, a rating, a review, sharing it with your friends, anything that helps us get through those algorithms and get into other people's earbuds, always good, always appreciated. Thanks for sticking with us. We're going through season 4 together. Looking forward to it. We'll see you all down at the fishing hole. Ba-da-ba